Bonjour, bienvenue à Vincennes. Welcome to Vincennes. You can see behind me the Lac de Saint-Mandé, at the lake of my neighborhood, Saint-Mandé. And I am walking through the Bois de Vincennes, the forest of Vincennes, which is one of the top two things that this area is known for. Vincennes is outside of the périphérique of Paris, just slightly, and it is known for predominantly its castle, which has the largest tower, the tallest tower of any castle in Europe. But today I am just going for a walk in the forest, and I wanted to tell you another story from like the trip over. I think a lot of you probably know that my cat had never flown before, and that the process of getting her paperwork so that she could legally enter France was like a nightmare, involving like 3 separate visits very far away to a USDA accredited vet, and there are not that many of them, which is why we had to go so far away. And like, it was really expensive by the end. I think the total bill came to $1,500 for this whole process. And the third and final visit has to take place like 10 days before leaving the country, because the EU requires the paperwork to be very last minute, very, very recent. So took Dharma in for her third and final visit with the vet on December 19th. I was flying out the 29th, and there's this just extremely stressful period where like the vet has to fill out a bunch of paperwork and send them to the USDA for approval, and then the USDA has to like print out her health certificate and ship it to me overnight. And of course I had to like secure the fastest shipping possible. I chose like UPS's super expedited service, and it was like $80. Anyway, yeah, add that to the total of the expense. And then, if you saw me in those days that I was waiting for the health certificate, like I was a wreck. Christmas was in there, and I was visiting with my whole family, and everyone's like, aren't you excited? And I'm like, no, I don't have my cat's health certificate yet. I can't go. It finally came in on the Thursday before I flew out, so I had like a margin of 2 days grace. So thank you, USDA, for getting me that health certificate on time. But the real punchline of this story is, so we show up, my mom drops me off at Mitchell Field International Airport in Milwaukee, and I had to check in at the Delta counter because, I have a cat. Kind of wanted to talk to me about that. And just remember the man who was helping me, his face was just so grave, and he was like taking forever to like call up my information and go through it. And when he finally spoke, it was like he was like really bracing himself, and he was like, I don't suppose you have the cat's paperwork? And I'm like, yes I do, would you like to see it? Here it is. And then he was like, well, oh, that's great. I don't suppose you have her rabies certificate? I'm like, yes, I do. It's the last page in the packet I just gave you. And she also has the microchip, the special microchip. She also has the rabies number, tagged to the microchip. So, we're all in order. And he was just like, oh my God, I never thought that you would actually answer yes to any of those questions. Thank God. Great, yeah, you're all in order. You can go fly with your cat. And so we get into Charles de Gaulle airport in Paris. And I'm like, already, I've got all her paperwork. I am ready. This is gonna happen. I walk up to, the initial gate for customs, where they like scan your face and take your biometrics and stamp your passport. And, before I went through, I talked to a customs officer and I'm like, hey, I got a cat. Is this the right line? He's like, yeah, because it just seemed pretty casual to me, because the entrance gate for Americans in Paris is really pretty casual. And I went through and got my biometric scan, and the doors opened, and I walked up to the next available customs officer, a young French woman, and gave her my passport, and she stamped it and smiled and said, bye. And I'm like, oh, hey, I have a cat. And she was like, okay, see the cat? And I was like, yes. So I like picked Dharma up and showed her the cat, and she was like cooing, like, oh, what a cute cat. And I'm like, don't you want to see her papers? And she's like, no, that's not necessary. So I kept walking, and I'm like, well, okay, maybe there's like a desk further on where I need to like, declare livestock. And sure enough, like there's like came to a corridor where there are these big tables and all these really official looking customs officers saying, do you have anything to declare, right? The posters everywhere, like, do you have anything to declare? And I'm like, oh yeah, I have livestock. I have a cat. So I walk up to one of these officers thinking for sure I could interest them in my animal and her very expensive papers. And I was like, hey, yeah, I declare I have a cat. And she was like, cool for you. Yeah, great. I'm like, don't you want to see her papers? And she was like, no, it's not necessary. And I'm like, but they're really expensive. And she says, oh, well, you guys care about that kind of stuff, not us so much. So, thank God for that guy at Delta who like actually looked at the papers that I spent so much money and spent so much time stressing about. So yeah, bienvenue en France, où on aime les animaux et surtout les chats. Welcome to France, where they love animals and especially cats. Au revoir, à la prochaine.